Hi folks, in today's video tutorials I'd like to focus on the sketch feature in the Creo Parametric 4.0. For better explanation I will create a solid model with you have to specify some names, and you can see here that I will start directly from the extrude feature and my sketch plane will be, for example, the front. I said that for better explanation I would like to define some shape for the extrude feature, so for the quick example I will make a symmetric extrude feature. Okay. If you are working with 3D models, you have to many times specify, for example, the extrude feature, revolve feature, or another type of features, and inside of this feature is necessary to define the section. Or you can select the sketch feature and directly use and create 2D curves. I like to focus on the sketch functions, and for better explanation I will create another extrude feature. You can see here that directly from the ribbon it's possible to select the icon create extrude feature, or you can select the map key X, or if you select the sketch plane you can specify the another feature, for example extrude revolve feature, and so on. Okay, so we would like to focus on the sketch, so I will select this surface as my sketch plane, and for better visualization I can switch to shading with edges. You can see here the system automatically spin the model directly in the sketch for the extrude 2, and if you spin the model you can select this icon and system again jump to sketch view. Over here is the question if you would like to use this orientation or you would like to specify your custom one. So for the sketch at the beginning is necessary to set up the correct orientation. The best practice is if you will prepare your orientation directly in 3D. So before you start work with extrude feature, for example, you would like to see the orientation of this 3D model directly here. So I will select the extrude feature and the system will spin the model directly in the sketch only a little bit. Yeah, you can see here that the spinning model was not so. If I will jump and orient model a little bit right now and will select again extrude feature, the system will spin and orient model correctly for me. Okay, so right now you know how to prepare your 3D model if you would like to create a sketch and the system will create a correct orientation in the sketch. Here is the question if you are satisfied or you would like to modify this orientation. We have a couple of examples how to orient the sketch, and the first one is the sketch setup. So if I will select the sketch setup, you can see here that system will show me which surface is my sketch plane and orientation plane. Yeah, and you can see here that you can select, for example, different orientation plane, so I can remove it, or I can select another one and set the placement. Yeah, so for example I'd like to use the selected surface on the right side, and the system will spin the 3D model directly how I need for my sketch. Okay, so this is the first orientation. Directly, if you finish the sketch orientation, the system will select some references. And you know that in the sketch is necessary to specify the references if you would like to attach some line, arcs, circles, and so on for your sketch. So right now, the system will select this button references and you can add the another references. Yeah, you can set and add how many references or how many you need in your sketch. And the question is, for what gives it good these references? These references again you can use for your orientation. So another new things in Creo is if you select reference directly in the sketch and you use the right mouse button, over there is the function section orientation. And you can use this reference, for example, as horizontal. And the system will orient that reference as horizontal. Or you can select another one, right mouse button, and select again, for example, horizontal. The question is how it works with Sketch Setup. The Sketch Setup is independent of this orientation. So if you jump here again, you can see here that I have selected the first sketch plane, and this is my orientation plane. Yeah? So the system doesn't care what you have specified in Sketch Setup, because you have specified the modification of the orientation directly in the sketch. So right now you know how to orient the model directly, for example, for the Sketch Setup, or base it on the references. If you add another reference, for example this one, again you can spin and orient like you need, for example vertical. Yeah. And the question is how the system will have a look on the 3D model. In the right mouse button section orientation, you can see here, then you can have a look from front to back or opposite. So you can flip sketching plane and the system will going the opposite direction. If I will go back to sketch view, I can see here that my sketch plane is on the back, or it's on the back. Or if I select sketch orientation, flip sketch plane, right now I can see that it's in front of. So you can see here it directly is in front of the sketch. In the right mouse button you have a lot of possibilities what to do. You can restore section orientation, you can flip section orientation. So what does it mean? You have select this reference as the orientation is vertical, but you would like to see it opposite way, so no problem. You can set flip section orientation and system will spin the model about 180 degrees again. And here is the question. If you will delete some reference, I will delete some reference. And for example, later you would like to add this reference, because if you would like to create a line, you would like to directly snap to the existing lines. You can, it's not problem. You can select the reference window and you can select any line, surface or edge directly from 3D and add these features as the reference. And if you use these references in your sketch, the system will remember. For example, I will create really easy rectangle, I will connect only two edges. You can see here that I will attach my sketch directly to two references. And the system automatically will remove unused references. So if I will confirm this sketch, and then I will go back to the sketch, so you can see here, placement and edit, the system removed the references. So that's perfect. You can add how many references you need, and the system will use only what you select. So for now, you know how to use the sketch setup and how to use the references in the sketch. And you will ask me if it is possible to add references on the fly. And I said, yes, no problem. You can delete the sketch. I'd like to focus over here. And I'd like to create another lines or shape. So I will create a new line. You can see here, the system will automatically snap the edge of existing edge, and the system will automatically add this reference. Or you can use the Alt key and select the surface or edge, and you will add the reference on the fly. And you can follow and finish your sketch. For example, create standard lines. So here is the answer how to create references on the fly. And what about the another features? I will go straight on and create another features, so we can add the another objects, for example extrude, and continue. If I will create the extrude feature and I will go straight on, you can see here that we would like to create, for example, for this extrude feature directly in the sketch, the axis. Yeah, for what is it good? Because next time I'd like to use it here, some hole on this axis. The best practice is jump in the sketch, select the definition, and in the sketch, create a datum point. If you create in the sketch datum point, for example here, the system will transform this point into axis while the system will create the extrude feature. Yeah, so you can see here right now, the system created for me the axis. This axis was placed directly in the section for extrude feature. And what about another datum features in the sketch? If you will create only sketch, it means you would like to create the 2D curves. Again, you can use the map key from the keyboard S and the system will create a sketch for you. Or you can select the sketch surface or sketch plane, and over there is the layout menu and you can select the sketch. And over here, in that sketch, I'd like to create, for example, coordinate system, or I'd like to create a couple of points, or I'd like to create a center line. Yeah? For example, more than one, it will be good for visualization. So in that sketch, I have created only axis, points, and coordinate system directly from this ribbon, from this group. If I will confirm OK, you can see directly in 3D that system created for me in the sketch, coordinate system, a few points or axis. And in the future you can use these lines or datum planes, datum features for your another features, for example, river and so on. So again, you have learned how to create datum features directly in the sketch. But what about another options, what we have to do or what we can do in the sketch? I don't want to see datum features right now, so I will continue with extrude feature again. And over here, I'd like to create and use some another feature. If you would like to create the line, is not problem. You can select the left mouse click and create the necessary shape, and you can see here that system automatically snap some constraints. For example, you would like to create the shape like this, but sometimes you make a mistakes and you don't specify the correct placement of the point. Yeah, that point I have select and place it not correctly. It was not select horizontally. So you can select right mouse button and over there you have the function set horizontal, and that line will be created horizontally. Or you can select another line and set vertical. So you can work with constraints directly from the menu. The best practice is if you create some shape and over there you would like to create, for example, perpendicular or parallel, equal and so on, you can, while you see the icon, you can use the right mouse button and the system will lock these constraints for you, and then the system, you can move the mouse and system will always create a perpendicular constraint, for example. Or again, if I would like to use the parallel, I can select right mouse button and system will lock this information for me. And again, you would like to use a coincident, no problem, select right mouse button. Yeah, and confirm, and again, you would like to go here or somewhere, no problem, the system will show you what constraints you can use. If you don't want to use, for example, this coincident, you can select 2 times right mouse button and the system will never use the coincident. But the question is, I'd like to use it in the future. Yeah, no problem. Select the right mouse button 1 more time and you can again lock this coincident and the system will snap it. And what about the lines here? Sometimes you need to move that point, this existing point, or you can create a corner. It's up to you. You can use the corner and the system will create a corner between selected lines, or I use the many times that I like to select the edge and select Control button and I like to move it. And you can see here the system automatically again create a coincident for me, and the system will close the sketch. And what about arc? Again, it works same. You would like to, for example, snap it here, lock, confirm, and select the another one and create some arc. And yeah, I will select the end, and with Control button I will extend it. What is necessary to do? Delete these lines. Again, it's up to you. You can use the Control button. Yep. For better visualization, I will switch off the dimensions, or I can switch off the coincident again, and in the future I can switch in. So this point I like to move it and system will snap. So you can really easily modify the shape of the existing line. Or again, no problem, you can use the delete segment and the system will show you the trimming line, and if you go through the existing line, the system will trim the existing line here. Again, if you would like to work with dimensions or constraints, you can switch on, switch off. For example, you can use the grid or select visualization of these points. Okay, so right now you know a little bit how to work with constraints. You know that is possible to create the objects, for example lines or arc and so on, and then you can log the constraints. Or you can create a shape, for example like this, and then you can use the right mouse button and select the possible constraints. Or you can select, for example, the constraints directly from the ribbon and use these constraints. Yeah, for example, parallel or perpendicular, and select references. If you select the more than 2 references here, the system will show you more possibilities for constraints. So for example, like this, or I like to specify the same length. If you would like to delete some constraints, no problem, you can select the constraints and use the delete from the keyboard, and the system will again show you and create the dimensions necessary. Okay, it was some example how to use the constraints. And what about the manipulation in the sketch? I will spin again my sketch into 2D. We can delete unnecessary edges, and I'd like to show you how you can work with symmetric object, for example. The best practice is if you are working with a center line, yeah, because you will create a center line, for example here, and then you can on the left side create some special shape. I will delete that constraints, and we can change the shape here. Okay. If you would like to make a mirror shape, you can select the sketch, and then the system will show you the mirror button. If you use the mirror button, the system will show you select the center line, and if you select the center line, the system will create a symmetric sketch for you. Yeah, so it's really easy. If you modify one line, the system will show you everything. If you create a dimension, it's not problem. You can select the references, and you will see the dimensions, or you can continue and create and confirm with middle button. Yeah, so select one reference and confirm middle button and set the dimensions, for example 150, or select more than 2 references and confirm again. What's happened right now? On the left side and right side I specify the same dimensions. Sometimes it's necessary to see both dimensions on the left side and right side, but system check if you create unnecessary dimensions. if you create more than one or same dimensions, you can specify create reference dimensions, and that reference dimension will be something like in the bracket, yeah, information dimensions. So if we will change that one, for example 45 degree, the reference dimension will be modified. Again, you would like to create a reference dimension, no problem, create the same, and then you can choose which one will be reference. For example, on the left side will be reference dimensions. Okay, so right now you know how to specify and create a dimension in the sketch and how to create the symmetric objects. What about next? I'd like to continue on that sketch. I don't want to create a lot of new sketches here, so I'd like to continue. And for example, I'd like to focus on the feature what is defined here, that we would like to create a projection. So if we need to project some existing edges or lines, you can select the function create a project feature, and the system asks you if we would like to create a single edge. So I'd like to select that edge, and the system will automatically project this edge. Yeah. If I will select another edge, the system will add the projection here. What about chain? It means you would like to select the chain from more than one selected references, or you would like to use the loop. So I like to project the loop, and I will select only surface, and system automatically select all necessary edges on that surface. So it's not necessary select step by step. It's working similar with offset. Yeah. So I will go back. I will use the function offset, and I would like to use the loop and that surface. The system will show me if I would like to go inside or outside. If I would like to go outside, it's a negative value, so minus 15, for example. If I will confirm, you can see the system will automatically create correct shape for me. Yeah, so if I will confirm, right now it's 15 millimeters from every selected edges. Go back to sketch, it's no problem, like here. And what about thickness? The thickness is, I will delete again this one, and I'd like to show you how to work with thickness. If you will select the thickness function, the system will ask you if you would like to work with single or chain or loops. Okay, over here I'd like to show you how to work with chain, and for example I'd like to use the circular shape. We will see the final result, and then I will explain to you what does it mean open, flat and circular. Right now the system will ask me for more than one edge, so I will select the first one and another one. The system will select if I would like to this one or next one, yeah, so I can choose which I would like to use. And if I will confirm, the system will ask me enter thickness. So for example, I'd like to use the thickness 5, and then the system asks me if I would like to go inside or outside. So we can go, for example, inside. It means 25 millimeters, and I have used the circular. So you can see here that my thickness is 5, I specified a 5, and offset was defined by dimensions, yeah, offset dimensions. And open, flat and circular. Open means that you don't want to see that curve. If you will specify flat, it will be straight line, and if you use the circular, over here is the example, yeah. So if I would like to go the opposite way, I like to use the single, for example, open, and then we would like to select that edge and go, for example, thickness 20 and minus 50. And right now you can see what the system will create for me. It's offsetted with 50 millimeters and thickness is 20, and the ends is opened. Yeah, so right now you know how to work with offset, thickness and project features here. And what about next? Over here you have a lot of different possibilities how to create corner lines, and these features are so easy that it's not hard to explain, and I like to focus on more used features. And for example, you would like to create the shape from the palette. If you use the shape from palette, the system will load the default palettes, what is defined by PTC company, or you can set the custom configuration options, and if you specify this configuration options, and in the folder you will specify your custom sketches, you can see here your custom sketch palette tab. For now I use the default visualization, so I like to use, for example, this U profile or I profile. You can have a look how it looks, or you can drag and drop and move it. If I will spin again, you can move it anywhere, or you would like to place it directly on some reference. Yeah, so what does it mean? If I would like to place it directly on the reference, yeah, for example, I have specified that vertex as a reference, and then I will move that point. You can see here the system will automatically snap to my reference. I can change the scale, I can spin that sketch, or you can select right mouse button and you can move the moving point. Yes, so right now the system will spin that point to this my selected sketch. So it's not a problem, you can confirm, and again you can create your custom dimensions or edit the sketch. This sketch is independent, so if you would like to modify it, you can create, for example, another circle and make some modification there. Yeah, so for example, I like to delete that shape. It will be nice. Yeah. And if you confirm OK, again, the system will show you the final results. Okay, go back to Sketch, and I'd like to show you more. So here's the question: if I have placed my sketch correctly, maybe no, maybe yeah, I don't know, we'll see. So you can select the existing sketch and you can use the function rotate and resize. If you use the function rotate and resize, you can move the existing sketch. You can move this function any sketch what you create. And again, you can place the moving point on different way. I have select right mouse button, and with left mouse button I can place it, I can spin, and so on. Or again, you can change the scale, it's up to you. Yeah, for example, like this. Again, if you would like to move it a little bit, you can move and you can place. And if you confirm, you specify new placement. And I said it is working with any sketch, so I can create my custom sketch. For example, I'd like to use the ellipse and this one. And again, I like to move it. Yeah, you know that it's possible to move. And maybe you would like to spin around some point. So select the sketch, rotate. You can use the right mouse button and place, and again rotate. Yeah. And if you finish, you have set new position for your sketch. So editing tools are really useful, and I like to focus on the function create a divide, or how to use the divide. Best example how to use the divide is, if I will go to 2D and I will hide it a little bit, and the question is if it is possible to create a line, for example, and from that line I'd like to create, for example, rectangle. And you say, oh, it's only one line, it's not possible. Okay, for now, again, I will switch off the dimensions, and I like to focus on that one line. You can use the divide and you can select the divided points. So I will one line divided on the 4 different one, and you can see here that it's the possible to delete the constraints. Yeah, you can go and select the step by step, and then you can move that point. So from the line I have created something strange. I have created unclosed line, and right now you know that it's the possible to move the point, or you can create a corner. It's up to you what is better for you. And then you can use the function create a constraints, and it's up to you which constraints you use. If you use the directly the selected objects, or you can use the button from the ribbon. So I would like to use, for example, perpendicular between 2, 1 and parallel is not necessary. I like to use the equal. Yeah, perfect. What is necessary to do it? We can select horizontal, and that will be horizontal. So you can see here how it's possible to create from one line the closed shape. And you can use again this function if you work with arc, for example, and you specify this one, and then you need to create some another shape here. You can use the divide function and select divided points, for example, like this, and then you can delete and add some another shape here. Yeah, it depends what you need and how you would like to specify. And then again, delete unnecessary line. Create the dimensions and finish your shape. Right now, you know how to specify the sketch setup references, how to work with datum features, how to specify some objects from the sketch group. You know how to edit the sketch and how to use the constraint. I have explained for you how to work with dimension, but only a little bit. And then we need to inspect the sketch. So right now I'd like to focus on some dimensions. What does it mean? Okay, we would like to create, for example, line. This line can be horizontal. And then I would like to create the arc. And if you will select the arc and you will follow the line, the system will create automatic tangent feature for you. Or if you don't want to use the tangent, you need to go perpendicular. And right now it's not tangent to selected edge. Yeah, so it's up to you how you work with combination of the line and arc feature. And what about dimension? I will create a tangent between these two objects, and I don't want to use the whole object. And the question is that right now the radius of that arc is 22. You can see here then in right mouse button the system show you what you can do with selected feature. For example, you can change this diameter to diameter, well, this radial dimension to diameter, and right now you can see the system will create for you the diameter dimensions, or you can go back and it will be radius. This is the linear dimension, and the question is if we would like to create the different kind of the dimension. You can select create the dimensions, you can select arc and then 2 ends of the arc and middle button. If you see here, the system will create the new dimension for you, and this is the length of that curve. So you can see here the system will create for you dimension defined by length. If I will delete it, and sometimes you need to specify the angle of the arc. If you would like to create the dimension of the angle of the arc, you can select dimensions and you can select end of the arc midpoint or center point, and again end of line and middle button. And right now the system will create for you angle, for example 125 or something less, for example 45. Yeah, so this is a 45 degree. Over here we can see that I have created one straight line and some arc. This line will be length, for example 150, and for example I will delete this line and create one more time length of that curve. It will be 50. It means that altogether is 200. But sometimes you don't want to count the length of these two lines. You can create a parameter dimensions directly in the sketch. It means you can select the objects, one is not necessary. Select more than two objects or two and more. If you select the parameter dimension, system will ask you select dimension to be driven as parameter. For example, that 150 will be driven. And you can see here that system will create for you dimension that two curves are 200 millimeters of the length. And if you select double click, and for example I will select that I'd like to use only 100, the system will automatically change that dimensions that is only 50 millimeters. Yeah, again, if I will change the length of the curve, the system will change these dimensions. Again, I like to use the 100. The system will automatically count that two dimensions altogether. If I will delete this dimension, no problem, because maybe you would like to draw with these dimensions, but always it will be 100. If I will select, for example, 15, you can see here the system will change it for me. Okay, right now that you know how it's work with dimensions, but sometimes you need to modify these dimensions. You can select again the icon from the flyout menu and use modify. In my video tutorials you can see that I use this function many times. I many times use the log scale. You have seen it many times and I want to go back. But I like to focus on the modification, because over here you can dynamically see that the system will set 100 millimeters for both lines, and if I will specify a modification of that curve, of that dimension, the system will change my variable dimension. You can change the sensitivity, it means how quickly you would like to modify it. Or you can directly set dimensions from here, is no problem. Yeah, and that one will be, for example, 30, and that one will be 150. Okay, so we have a lot of possibilities how to work with dimensions. I will cancel this sketch and I would like to go to revolve feature. And for the revolve feature is really good if you work with the revolve feature, and if you will create the shape and then you will create axis of revolution. So axis of revolution is that center line, and you can see here that system will automatically spin my sketch around this axis of revolution. If I will go back to the sketch and you would like to create, for example, symmetric sketch here, yes, so you can use this center line or right mouse button and create the center line. And you can place it directly here. You can destroy these constraints, and then you can change it a little bit and what is necessary to do and set the symmetrical objects. So you can see here that right now I can select 2 point and center line, and the system asks me if I would like to use the horizontal point or midpoint and so on. So you can see here that over there I have a lot of constraints, so I have to delete one of them, and then the system will create symmetrically symmetrical shape for me. Or on the other side, I can use the point, center line, and another point. Yeah. So right now you can see that if I will confirm OK, the system will create correct revolve feature for me. One more time, in the sketch, in the revolve feature, we have two possibilities: create a center line as axis of revolution, or center line directly for the symmetric constraints. And what about if you need to check if your sketch is correctly closed? I will create new sketch, and in that sketch I like to focus if my sketch is correctly created. You can see here that right now I create a sketch. If you create only sketch, for example rectangle, yeah, I will confirm I have created everything. And you can use this sketch, for example, for the extrude feature, or on the opposite way, I can use that sketch for the revolve feature, and this is my axis of revolution. We can switch off or switch on if you would like to add material or delete material. Yeah, you can see right now that I use the one sketch, and if I will edit that sketch, the system will change the extrude feature and revolve feature for me. How it works? I have created one sketch here, and extrude feature use the sketch 2, and revolve feature use the sketch 2. Here is the question: if you would like to unlink one sketch, for example, extrude 2 will be use his custom sketch. So select extrude feature at the definition, and over here in placement tab you can see here that my sketch 2 is linked with this extrude feature. If you use the unlink, the system will create for you embedded sketch, and you can see here directly in the model tree that extrude 3 use the section 1. If you change this one, the system will create independent modification. Okay, so right now you can see that I have used two different ones, and if I select section 2, we can edit section 2 and change the shape of the section 2. This sketch 2 is connected to revolve 2. Okay, so right now you know how to disconnect the existing sketch to any feature. And what about another options if you need to check if your sketch is okay? If you create outside sketch and if you create some mistakes, for example, you would like to create a corner rectangle, then you will create on this line another line. You can see it a little bit because over here is the red points. But if you confirm OK, it's no problem. For the sketch is fine, but you know that sketch has some problem. And then how you know it? Because you would like to use it for the extrude feature like here, and it's not working. So I'm sorry, it's not working, we have some problem. And then you have to go back in the sketch 3, edit definition, and have a look and investigate what is wrong. Over here we have some inspect features. For example, closed loop or highlight open ends. You can see opened ends. And the last thing what is here is the overlapping geometry. If you select this icon, the system will show you directly in the sketch the overlapping geometry, and you can select delete unwanted edges or lines, and then the system will show you correct closed loop. Yeah, you can see if I switch off, it's not possible to see closed loop. If I switch on, it's default, it's always show. The system will always show me this information so I can check it. If I will create something inside, it's okay. If I will move it a little bit, the system will show me, sorry, you have some intersecting or overlapping geometry. So over here you can investigate your sketch, and with dynamic preview you can see if it is possible to create and use it, for example, for extrude or revolve feature or not. The better practice is if you create the feature directly in 2D. I hope so that you like my example how to work with sketch features with Creo Parametric 4.0, and have a nice day and bye bye. Vladimir.